Hey everybody, just while we're doing this, I should have started with this, but I forgot. We're going to be going to the Lough Neagh Film Festival down to Oxford Island this weekend, the 9th and the 10th. I know I mentioned this at the end of the podcast, but I should have had it as a main feature and I completely forgot. So there's So if you go on to Save Lough Neagh on Facebook or just Google it, it will come up and you'll see there's a whole weekend of speakers of movies. I'll be playing some music on the Sunday. I'll also be interviewing a guy about his new book about the loch on the Saturday. And speaker announcement, there's Mariella Fife from Save Our Sperrins, because they're going through a campaign to stop Dalriada gold mine up in the Sperrins, which no doubt will be an environmental catastrophe. There's more speakers announced, farming for the future, ending waste and water pollution. And that's all very but it gets very interesting. There's the Banford Ferry film by Callum Lafferty. Callum Lafferty I know from his work with Melogian, a fantastic local filmmaker. And there's campaigners out in the town giving out flyers, archival footage of Lough Neagh with Brona McTasney. I've seen that, it's brilliant. But I'll be down at this to watch this one. This is the George A. Russell Society here in Lurgan, and my pal Jim Conway, who'll be giving a talk about Into the Mystic of Lough Neagh. And he goes on, I talked to him about this around the Woodville. It's fucking awesome. He talks about the folklore and everything around Lough Neagh. It's the heart of Ireland. I don't know if you know that, but it is. But you should come down. So that's this Saturday, this Sunday, 2 days. And our friend Mary Therese Mackle, she's going to be debuting her wonderful film that me and Janie and the girls are in. We're just extras in it. About the Lough Neagh, the Silvering, I think it's called. So she's quickly trying to get an edit together of that to debut, and I really hope that happens. So there's speakers, music, film, all weekend down at Oxford Island on Lough Neagh. Sure, why wouldn't you want to come to that? Here we go. 1 2 test. Hello everybody. 1 second. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You're okay. Boom 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 boom. How's it going? Hello and welcome to another episode of Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. Hope you're well. It's been mad. We're going to be looking at anti-Semitism in the UK and Ireland. Apparently we're all mad anti-semites now, Ted. I don't know if I have time for that sort of thing in between the farm and everything else, Mary's illness, but sure, I'll give it a lash. We're going to look at, there's a UK election being held today, a council election, and it's Keir Starmer, PM Kid Starver, Tel Aviv's man in London is going to get his fucking eye wiped. And so we should. We want to take a look at the current situation, state of play in Iran, and then a couple of wee culture-y things at the end, if I remember to get to them, which I friggin' better. I always forget. But anyway, so we'll pull that down. We'll get right to it. And as always, we're going to, you can watch this on YouTube, watch it on Patreon, listen to it on Patreon. It's free, by the way. It's literally free. I do have a paid tier at £1 a month, which is voluntary. It's completely voluntary. You don't have to do that. But go over. I'm going to start urging you to go over to my Patreon. So if you would, please go over, sign on to my Patreon. And you don't have to pay anything. You get most of the stuff that I put out. I'm going to start doing, because you have to sort of, you have to give people a reason to come over and sign up and stuff. So what I was thinking about, what could I do that would encourage people to do that? And whenever I started podcasting, I wanted to do sort of music documentaries, but I only got to do one or two of them, and then they got taken down recently. Actually, the first one I think is still up, and it's about the history of chess records, which is one of my big influences. Um, so I think I'm going to see if I can do that again. I want to see if I can add them behind the paywall, if you know what I mean. So they're not out in public. I'm going to try. I think I might. I don't think. I have a funny feeling I can't, but I'm going to try and see how I can get around that, because the way things are these days with copyright is if you're small, the big corporations can steal like fuck from you. But if you're kind of, if one of these big corporations owns your publishing, which is most of the good stuff, little documentary makers like me can't, you know, can't use them. I mean, I'm supposed to talking about music is like dancing to architecture. You know, it's that old adage. So it's very difficult to do it without. And would you want to do it without the actual music that you're speaking about? You have to be able to play the thing. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my levels here. 1 2 1 2. There we go. I don't want to do it too high. But anyway, let's get to it. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to have a wee go at that. See how I get on. So, anti-Semitism, or is it? What we have is all this stuff going on. What's the definition of... So we've got anti-Semitism. So there's a massive push from the Israel lobby across the West to accuse us all of being mad anti-Semites for opposing their expansionism, their colonialism and their genocides in the Middle East. I mean, they're currently in a ceasefire with Lebanon, but they're bombing the shit out of it. Although, apparently they're getting... they're not getting it all their own way. But regardless, so, and the thing that I've noticed, and it's fascinating, is no matter how much you give them, no matter how much you bend the knee, no matter how much allegiance you give them, how much lip service you give them, it's never enough. And if you come out with even the slightest bit of criticism, like Keir Starmer, a perfect example. This is a man who's completely given over any autonomy. He is Tel Aviv's man in London. There's no doubt about it. The way he backstabbed and completely betrayed Jeremy Corbyn is stunning. It's literally stunning. And he has done everything imaginable to support Israel and the Zionist regime and their messaging. But he doesn't. He's not going all in on the Iran war. He's allowing the United States to use British bases to refuel and rearm their bomber fighter planes, etc., etc. But that's not enough. And then, because he's not prepared to do that, he gets smeared as an anti-Semite, which is it's absolutely fucking fascinating to watch. It really is. It's but so what we've seen recently is, for the first time, instead of Israel being viewed by the general populace as the scrappy underdog just fighting for survival, you know, trying to exist after the horror that was the Holocaust was played out upon the Jewish people. And ever since that, you know, the messaging has been strong, and that Israel belongs to the Jewish people, etc., and all this sort of stuff. And few people have questioned it. Certainly the majority haven't questioned it. That's changed. And it's fantastic to see. I'm like everybody else. I thought that Israel was the victim all these years, for many years, until, well, quite a number of years ago now. But everybody can see it for what it is. And it's absolutely fantastic. So, what Israel does is they're not going to stop their expansionism. They're not going to stop the Greater Israel Project. Ooh, I'm an anti-Semite. I said Greater Israel because 2 years ago, if I'd have said Greater Israel, I was called an anti-Semite. And I was called an anti-Semite for saying Greater Israel. Now they're admitting it. Do you know what I mean? So now that instead of pausing or they're certainly not going to reverse it, but instead of pausing the disgusting Greater Israel Project, the 2 lines on the Israel flag, Star of David in the middle, the blue line at the top and the blue line at the bottom represent the Euphrates in Iran and the Nile in Egypt. So instead of pausing that and trying to turn public opinion that way, or reversing it, God forbid, and being nice to their neighbours, literally bombing 7 neighbouring countries at the one time, at one point this year, or last year. No, what they do is they double down. And they always double down. So whenever it comes to Keir Starmer not joining in on the Iran war, despite the fact of everything he's done, set his whole political party on fire. His political party's fucked. I'm going to demonstrate that later on. There's an election in the UK today, in the mainland UK, destroying his own party, destroying his own legacy, arguably destroying his country, although he's only the latest in a long line of political figures that could be accused of that. Despite the fact that the line he cannot cross, the Rubicon, is joining in full-throatedly on the illegal, immoral, unprovoked attack on Iran, which started, let's not forget, with the bombing of a girls' school, which resulted in the deaths of 186 people, I believe. I think, and of that, the vast majority, by a long way, like 165 of them, were 8 to 12-year-old girls. That was their first act in this war, and that Britain doesn't join in, despite the fact that they're allowing the bombers to be refueled and rearmed in England. That's not enough. He still gets smeared as an anti-Semite. It's fucking amazing. Think about that. Just think about that. No matter what he does, it's not. No matter what you do, it's never enough. You're all in, 100%, fire-breathing, fucking Zionist psychopath, or you're an enemy of the Jews. And let's not conflate Judaism with Zionism. They're not the same thing. Judaism, and the only people that want you to conflate Judaism and Zionism is Zionists and Nazis. They're the only two. Everyone else can see the difference. We can all see the difference. We all know. We can, and we're going to talk about Ireland in a minute as well, because we're now under the gaze of Sauron. We're being targeted. And what Israel does in order to do this, they have a propaganda arm in their government, military, secret service, whatever you want to call it, called hasbara. So here it is. What is hasbara? Hasbara is a Hebrew term for Israel's public diplomacy, strategic communication and international propaganda efforts. It seeks to promote a favourable narrative of Israel, defend its actions, and influence global opinion, particularly regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. Right? So it translates as explanation, and their explanation, not everyone else's, is different, quite obviously. Techniques, it involves professionalised digital campaigns, social media management and coordination of messaging to justify Israeli actions, often focusing on security and targeting, sometimes by blaming adversaries for civilian casualties. So lots of dirty tricks. It's a dirty tricks campaign, right? So you can see they've gone from having a public relations arm of their government. You could argue, you could say that that's what it is, to now they've got Israeli American. They would call themselves American Israelis. I put the Israeli first because they're clearly Israeli first. Israeli American billionaires, people like Larry Ellison, who owns a computing company, one of the biggest in the world. I don't know if you've even heard of them. They're called Oracle. They're fucking huge. And he bought Paramount, and he's trying. Well, I think he's bought it, and he's trying to buy now something else. And in that, he's took over CBS News, and he's put an ex-New York Times columnist called Barry Weiss in charge of it, despite just absolutely no experience of running an organisation like that. Obviously, she's a fire-breathing lunatic Zionist. So she's in charge of this CBS News division, this legacy media news division. She's now in charge of that. And they've also bought TikTok. So the TikTok app now in America, I don't know if it's, I don't use TikTok, so I don't really know. But apparently in America, if you download a different version you do in the rest of the world, and you will not find out any information about the current goings on with Israel. You won't find it on there. So, and it's hemorrhaging users, and equally the CBS News division is hemorrhaging views, and people, they know what it is, and they don't want anything to do with it. They can see what it is, because we're now in a new age of new media. So what they're doing is they're buying up. So you can see how their propaganda efforts have went from soft power things like sponsoring a cycling team called Israel Startup Nation and having a song win the Eurovision Song Contest. By the way, that's a story in and of itself, how they cheated to do that, and the whole voting process ended up mired in complete scandal because of they can't even enter a fucking song contest without cheating. So they go from these traditional soft power efforts that all countries take part in. Everyone does it, entering teams for the Olympics and all this sort of shit, to having to buy entire news divisions, legacy media news divisions, newspapers, TV channels, and now the biggest social media platform on earth, TikTok. So, and the end result of all that is, it doesn't work. People aren't having it. So here's the headline. I'll show you the article. AIPAC tracker. AIPAC is the American Israeli lobbying organization. Israel to pour $730 million into propaganda arm amid reputational crises. First reported by the Jerusalem Post, a total of $730 million has been allocated to the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, known by its Hebrew name, hasbara, which oversees Israeli propaganda. The figure marks a sharp increase from $150 million set aside the previous year, which had already surged to roughly 20 times pre-23 levels. So the $150 million last year was already 20 times the amount they'd put into this. Hasbara-ing. I know that's not a word, I just made that up. So it was already 20 times, so 10 times of 15 million. So the previous norm was somewhere around 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 million a year. And now in the space of a few years, it's gone up to $730 million. Now, why do you think that is? Clearly because they're losing the efforts. So if we go to this article, this is the Israel-Palestine. If American News presents Israel-Palestine News, I don't know what this organisation is, but it's a good article. So just as I said, Israel to pour $730 million into propaganda arms. So let's have a wee read. Global support for Israel drops sharply as criticism mounts over genocide, apartheid and regional wars. May the 1st. This is reposted from the Middle East Eye, so that's what this is. Israel is preparing to spend nearly $750 million on its propaganda arm as it seeks to counter a worsening global image shaped by the genocide in Gaza and regional wars, according to its national budget passed in March. First reported by the Jerusalem Post, a total of $730 million has been allocated to the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, known by its Hebrew name, hasbara. And the figure marks a sharp increase. I've already said that. The scale of the spending points to an intensified effort to improve Israel's international standing as negative perceptions grow, including in allied countries such as the United States. Where it gets all its money from. Israel has been widely accused of genocide in the Gaza Strip, where its forces have killed and injured more than 250,000 Palestinians since October 2023 and starved 2.3 million people. The country has also been accused of creating an apartheid system in the occupied West Bank. Israel has additionally drawn criticism for belligerent acts in Syria, Lebanon, Qatar, and most recently the war with Iran. Earlier this year, Israel faced intensifying scrutiny over links to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who has been suspected of ties to Mossad. Israel has denied the accusations. My goodness. And you wonder why you have to spend $750 million on propaganda. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza, while Israel confronts genocide charges in the International Court of Justice. In the US, Israel's closest ally has been accused of drawing Washington into the war with Iran, which triggered global economic disruption, which is going to get far, far worse, by the way. The Pew Research Center poll published in April found that 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavourably, a sharp rise over the past year, while favourable views have dropped to 37%. The shift cuts across political and religious lines. Among Republicans under 50, a majority now hold negative views of Israel. Support has also fallen among black Protestants, Catholics, and the religiously unaffiliated. Even among American Jews, backing has slipped to below 2/3. That's massive. Now, those figures are going to be much higher everywhere else. It's just in the US. Yeah? So, alongside the budget increase, Israel's foreign ministry has expanded its messaging apparatus. Foreign Minister Gideon Sahar has overseen the creation of a dedicated unit tasked with shaping international narratives. The government has committed tens of millions of dollars to digital campaigns, including around $50 million in social media advertising push across major platforms. This is why the platforms are being they call them we're apolitical. We don't want to get involved. They're getting money to shut the fuck up and let us advertise on your platforms. So you're going to see, I see adverts on TV, on Sky TV all the time, and TNT and all these other like big legacy media platforms. You see their adverts, and that's why they're either owned directly by people that are Zionists, or they're just going to shut the fuck up and take the money. But it's not going to work. It has also spent around $40 million hosting hundreds of foreign delegations ranging from politicians to clergy to influencers and university leaders. The centralised media war room now tracks coverage across hundreds of outlets and monitors thousands of daily references to Israel. The campaign extends into political consulting and targeted outreach. The Foreign Ministry signed a £1.5 million a month deal with a firm linked to former Donald Trump strategist Brad Parscale to deploy artificial intelligence tools online. Jesus, is there any more room for those? Fuck, us all you get. Additional funds have been directed towards evangelical networks and influencer campaigns run through private PR firms. That's particularly terrifying. In the United States, the evangelical churches are particularly supportive of Zionism and Israel because for religious reasons they believe the what do they call it? The word will come to me. Jesus is going to come back and everyone's going to go to heaven and all that fucking nonsense. It's like the quickening at the end of Highlander. But what they do is they've actually got, they call it, they've almost like ring fenced the church, so they know, they track you on your apps. That's where your data comes in and out, and they know where you're going, and they're able to bombard you with information and adverts. So the advert you get on Facebook isn't the same as the advert I get on Facebook, obviously, and that's a part of it. So if you're an evangelical, and you're going to one of those evangelical churches, they know they can hit you with that shit, and they do it. It's dystopian and creepy as fuck, but people don't seem to mind. I do. I have all that crap turned off on my phone as much as I can, and I know it doesn't work. And I know, by the way, there's another update. Just on a side note, Chrome, without you knowing, has downloaded a 4 gigabyte update to your Chrome browser on your phone, which is an AI tool. Every Chrome browser has got this. That's 1 billion. That's 4 billion gigabytes of data that's been down. I mean, the environmental costs of that is fucking disgusting. And you didn't ask for it, but it's embedded in Chrome, so you get the update. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, so I digress. The surge in spending coincides with the growing alarm within Israel's policy circles over the deepening isolation. A recent paper by researchers at the Institute for National Security Studies in Tel Aviv warned that Israel faces diplomatic and public opinion isolation at levels not seen since its establishment. The report highlights what it describes as a creeping economic boycott, with businesses and academic institutions increasingly avoiding ties with Israel. BDS works, folks. Researchers urge the government to intensify engagement with diaspora Jewish communities and Christian Zionist networks. Proposals include expanding youth travel programs to bring tens of thousands of young Jews and Christians to Israel each year. There's a name, what do they call that for young Jewish people? It's not called the homecoming, it's something like that. That's what they call it. Birthright. They call it birthright. It's your birthright to go to Israel, and you go and you get laid, and they'll send young IDF soldier girls out, and they'll let you you can finger them in the back of the bus, and they call that birthright, and they'll pay for that. That's what they've been doing thus far. But they've been doing that for decades now. But then the next level is what they're doing now, as explained a moment ago, where they're buying newspapers, television stations, and the biggest social media platforms in the world. That's which is an indicator that they're losing. Because if they weren't losing, they wouldn't be doing that. The paper also calls for a $100 million fund to boost Israeli research and recommends inviting leaders from top global universities to visit Israel with the aim of reinforcing institutional ties. None of this stuff will matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all the fucking same. Inviting a chancellor of a university to come to... I mean, if he's going to go, he's all in anyway. So... crack on. It'll hardly matter. It won't matter. You're not going to change opinion. And we've seen this week. And by the way, there's a court case going on in the UK. People were convicted. They're waiting to be sentenced. Because I'm a citizen of the United Kingdom, I'm not even allowed to tell you about it. But it involves what we're talking about. And the people that are, the jury that are convicting the people they've convicted aren't allowed to know what it is they've been charged with. They've been charged as terrorists. It's fucked. This is what Keir Starmer has done, but he still will get called an anti-semite because he doesn't join in full-throated on the war in Iran. Because he comes out mealy-mouthed and says, oh, maybe this isn't legal. None of it's legal. It's all illegal. So here's a few headlines. Israel is ramping up its budget to 730 million. Basically just confirming what I've just told you. Splurged by the Hasbara crew. And then, oh, this one's interesting. Let's show you this. So this is what I'm saying to you. Remember, folks, there is no propaganda campaign against Ireland, right? And then there's that picture. You can see this on Patreon. I keep saying YouTube. Go to Patreon. Fuck YouTube. My YouTube numbers are zero anyway. I get like single figures. I used to get hundreds and hundreds, and I don't. That's one of the reasons I stopped. They just choke me off. They didn't say they don't, but they do. But anyway, so here's the main. There's a picture there of Auschwitz and the main gate of the prisoner of war camp in Auschwitz. And this is from an Irish textbook, allegedly. In Irish school books, however, Auschwitz is called a prisoner of war camp. Now, I don't know if that's true. And I'm pretty sure there isn't. I don't want. Here it is. Selective lies. Now show the next page that describes Auschwitz as an extermination camp and describes. So of course, yeah. So there you go. It was. You knew it was going to be that anyway. A load of nonsense. So, and Ireland is under. We are under it. Oh, I got. I'm going to throw something out here now. I'm going to have a wee search for it. The Paddy Keilty show last week with Boy George. Fuck that asshole. Fuck that asshole. So there's the hasbara. While it's in my head, I'm going to do it. I'm going to type it in here. Right. So here is a part of the whole is anti-Semitism bullshit. And also, you've heard me say this a few times, Ireland has been targeted. We've been targeted. The eye of Sauron is upon us, whether we like it or not. I know we don't. There's the whole that there's a rampant anti-Semitism problem in Ireland is complete fucking nonsense. And we have been marked. We've been marked. There's no doubt about it. And here's a perfect example of it. So, Boy George was a guest on the Paddy Keilty's Late Show on Saturday night. For those of you that don't know, it's Ireland's Saturday night fluff program. It's what, you know, the sofa show interview celebrities about their current thing, what the movie they're fucking in, or the album they're doing, or whatever. I haven't watched it in years. It used to be a big thing. So Boy George was on it, and the response from this moment has been absolutely amazing. It has been absolutely amazing. Boy George is talking specifically about the so-called anti-Semitic attack on 2 Jewish men in Golders Green in London, just the previous day, or that week anyway, just last week. What's failed to be mentioned is it wasn't an anti-Semitic attack. The man attacked a Muslim earlier in the day, stabbed them, hospitalised them, attacked 2 men in Golders Green. Now, he may have attacked them because they were Jewish, maybe they were visibly Jewish, I don't know, and that was what triggered him. But he also attacked a Muslim man earlier in the day, maybe because he was visibly Muslim, maybe he wasn't, I don't know. But neither do you, right? But all this has been reported on the news. Even the Prime Minister comes out and talks about it, and talks about the disgusting anti-Semitic attack on two Jewish men in Golders Green. And even he doesn't mention that the same head case that attacked those people literally, before he got to Golders Green, had stabbed a Muslim man earlier in the day. The man was also on the Prevent programme, which is the British government's and the police's programme to try and track potential extremism in the UK. And he'd also served time in jail for stabbing 2 cops. He'd been sentenced to 9 years and been let out, and he was being monitored by mental health professionals. The man was a head case. He probably should be in an institution somewhere, but then those places have been defunded to the point of uselessness anyway, under one right-wing government followed by the next. So here is Boy George, who there's so many things he does in this clip that just blow me away. I'm going to play it. Wait till you hear this. Sorry, just make sure you've got that on your... There we go. So, Paddy Keilty. Right back. There we go.
I saw you putting a message up yesterday. You were passing those horrific attacks in Golders Green.
I was in Golders Green on Wednesday morning. Weirdly, I was going to see my doctor, and I kind of obviously couldn't get to the street where I was going to because there was a lot of chaos and stuff. And, I've kind of had a lot of abuse online for my support of my Jewish friends, but if you've got a Amy Winehouse record, you're probably going to hell to get over it. It's like, for me personally, growing
Let's
up
do that again.
online for my support of my Jewish friends.
I get a lot of abuse online because of my support of my Jewish friends. Well, if that's true, there probably are. I mean, online is a weird space, to be fair. But it's not support of your Jewish friends, it's support of your Zionist friends. You're a Zionist, George. That's what people don't like. Right? And then he says about, if you've got an Amy Winehouse record, because Amy Winehouse was Jewish, then you should be, what? What the fuck are you talking about? He's doing a thing here, and it's another little hasbara Zionist Israeli trap. It's a little thing they do. They equate Zionism with Judaism. They're not the same thing. The only two groups that equate the two are Zionists and Nazis. And he's doing it. And he's doing it in defence of his Jewish friends. Most people don't care whether you're Jewish or not. It's whether you're a Zionist, a Western European white supremacist, neo-colonial project. That's what people don't like. It's not that you're a Jew. People don't care. Most people don't care. There's some people that do, and we know what they are. And fuck them. Back to the video. It gets worse.
But if you've got an Amy Winehouse record, you're probably going to hell to get over it. It's like, for me personally, growing up, I've had so many beautiful Jewish friends, and I still have. And being asked to kind of turn against the whole race of people.
Who? Who is asking you to turn against the whole race of people? Who is asking you to turn against the whole race of people? Who are these people? Call them out, give them a name, give them a middle finger and tell them to fuck off. Why are you bringing this to Ireland? We do you see this? It gets worse.
It's just not acceptable to me, and I'm getting a lot of abuse for it, but I don't really care.
And it's that idea, isn't it, that you've got attacks on the Jewish community, and the backdrop of that is obviously the horrors in Gaza, and this is...
And by the way, so online, what you're getting now is that on this online space, there's a comment right there underneath. I'll read it to you in a moment. If you know who it's from, you won't be surprised. Or if you know this individual, you won't be surprised to hear that he thinks this. But the fact that Paddy Keilty brought up the hate that Jewish people are getting in the world, and if they are, it's wrong, with Gaza, and that perhaps Gaza might be the cause of this rise in anti-Semitism, which it undoubtedly is. he got abused for that. So Boy George says, I'm being asked to abandon my beautiful Jewish friends, and I won't do it. And Paddy Keilty brings up, he says, yes, well, it's the thought that, that what's going on in Gaza might be linked to these acts of anti-Semitism. He got shit for that. Unless you Rabbi Shmuley levels of Zionist complicity, you're a rabid anti-Semite. That's your two options.
This is a complex thing, but I know that you've always spoken out that violence is never the answer.
Well, I think you don't blame a whole nation for what's going on in America.
Well, you don't blame a whole nation for what's going on. That's fair. Okay, you can say that. Have you seen the numbers? Have you seen the numbers? What the population of Israel? He's talking about a whole nation. So he's not talking about his Jewish friends in London now. He's talking about Israel. Again, he's equating the two. I'm not. His Jewish friends in London are not Israel. They're not the same thing. It's him that's making that point that they're the same thing. He's shown support for his Jewish friends by supporting the nation of Israel. And the numbers in Israel, in the polling, is horrifying. They're all on for this. They want more of this. They're all on for this. Here's a poll. Let's have a look. Well, it's not exactly a poll. It's information. There's a poll underneath it. While there's no single poll asking Israelis if they favour genocide, that's the question I asked. Do Israelis favour genocide in Gaza? Several recent surveys indicate high levels of public support for military actions and policies that international critics often characterise as genocidal or eliminatory. Belief in no innocence. June 25 poll by the Hebrew University of Jerusalem found that 64% of Israelis and roughly 75% of Jewish Israelis agree with the statement that there are no innocents in Gaza. Support for expulsion. A March 25 survey published in Haaretz reported that 82% of Jewish Israelis support the forced expulsion of Gazan residents to other countries. Biblical precedent for total destruction. In the same Haaretz poll, 40% of Jewish Israelis agreed that the IDF should act like the Israelites in Jericho, specifically to kill all its inhabitants, while conquering an enemy city. Humanitarian aid. A Jerusalem Post report from May 25 noted that 53% of Israelis believe that the state should not allow any humanitarian aid into Gaza, and 64.5% expressed they were not concerned about the humanitarian situation there. military conduct and support. 34% of Israelis believe the military response in Gaza had not gone far enough. 78% of Jewish Israelis believe the IDF makes substantial efforts to avoid unnecessary suffering, despite the fact that they're sniping children in the fucking head. By October 2025, support for ending the war had risen to 60% among Jewish Israelis, largely driven by a desire to free the hostages rather than humanitarian concerns for Gazans. Genocide Watch, here we go, Haaretz.com. Literally the first response. Poll shows majority of Israelis support expelling Gazans, so that's June 25, so that's what was just mentioned in the previous piece. So there we go. So back to Boy George. You don't blame a whole nation.
This is a complex thing, but I know that you've always spoken out that violence is never the answer.
Well, I think you don't blame a whole nation for what's going on in
Most of the nation want what's going on. Most of them want what's going on. So how do you not blame them? Because there's a minority that aren't the worst people on earth? you just let the nation get away with it and you don't appoint any blame. Where does that happen? Who else gets that courtesy? Who else gets that courtesy? Show me who else gets that courtesy. Germans, World War II, Nazis, they weren't all bad. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. It gets worse.
In America or in Russia or anywhere else, you know, I think it's really about your relationships with people. Do you know what I mean? I don't choose my friends based on their race or their sexuality or their age. I choose people.
Most people don't, George. Most people don't. Most people don't. Most people don't give a fuck.
Because I like them and because they're good people. And I know lots of amazing Jewish people.
Right.
If you don't know any Jewish people, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah. So the reason that someone would ask you to question your relationship with Israel, and he brought Israel into this, right, is because you personally know some nice Jewish people. So therefore, the Hindu regime getting massacred in the car, 300 plus bullets getting shot at it. The October the 7th massacre, which we know was not everything it's being portrayed to be. We know that the Israelis carried out their Hannibal directive in that, on that moment. So many questions about October the 7th, why it took so long to get an armed response, despite it being one of the most heavily armed countries and surveilled countries in the world. Every hospital, university, school has been flattened. Iran has been bombing whatever, 9 countries, firing missiles at 9 countries in the Middle East now for the past couple of months since the unprovoked attack by the United States, and they have yet to hit a single school or a hospital. Israel can't seem to miss them. Report after report after report, Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, Red Cross, Red Crescent, ICC, ICJ, you name it, saying this is a genocide, it's being done deliberately, you're targeting civilians. Because he knows a couple of nice Jewish people, it's fine. Are you fucking joking? Gets worse.
Do you know any Jewish people?
Right? So what's this? What's this? This is it. Do you know any... So he looks at an audience of the Irish Saturday Night Sofa Show. They've come from all over Ireland. I guarantee you, more than half of that audience are rural people. The fucking back hills of Mayo, Sligo, Monaghan, Donegal, Kerry, Cork and beyond. Do you know any Jewish people? What's this?
Jewish people. If you don't know any Jewish people, maybe that's the problem. Do you know any Jewish people? Look at the choir. It's so weird. You know, as a country that's had a lot...
So, do you know any Jewish people? There's silence. If you went down to Tel Aviv and said, do you know any Catholics in the equivalent show, I pretty much guarantee you'd be met with the same silence. Because I've done the numbers. In Ireland, there are 60,000 Jewish people. Most of them living, as you would expect, in and around the cities, Dublin, Cork, Belfast. Mostly Dublin. Most of the people in Ireland don't know any Jewish people. By a huge majority. Most of the people in Ireland have never met a Jewish person. So to say this as some sort of a gotcha, this is George who lives in London and then he does something fucking rotten. Just at the end of it, it's disgusting what he does just at the end of it. If you said this same thing in Tel Aviv, I imagine you'd be met with the same silence, because in Israel, there are 7,000 Christians, 7,000 Catholics. Sorry, 7,000 Christians, not Catholics, right? So for him to do that, as if he's got you, if you only knew these people, if you only knew the Nazi, you wouldn't hate them so much. That's what he's saying. Now, bear in mind, he's the one that has brought that mentioned Israel, but that's what he's saying. So, because he personally knows some Jewish people in England, and because he works in Israel, which I bet he does, if only you knew them personally, you wouldn't hate what they're doing so much. You'd be able to turn a blind eye to it. This is a nonsense, but this is doing the rounds. This is being spewed out as an example of the rampant anti-Semitism that exists in Ireland. Now, we really see this. He does this little cunty thing at the end. Catch this.
Look at the choir. It's so weird. You know, as a country that's had a lot of pain, we should know what that feels like.
No, I know.
As a country that's had a lot of pain, we should know. So now he's Irish now. So I know he's got Irish heritage and all that stuff. So now he's Irish now. He probably has an Irish passport. And he's welcome to it. So now he's Irish. So he sits there in the Saturday night sofa show, looks at a load of people from all over the country, people that he doesn't know, accuses them of being anti-Semitic because some head case stabbed a Muslim and 2 Jewish people in London the previous day. And because these people don't know any Jewish people personally, they're wrong for... and he doesn't know if they did or not, but Ireland is, you know, pretty much very, very pro-Palestine. And because they're probably pro-Palestine, the people he's looking at, they're wrong because he knows some Jewish people in London. And then because he's Irish, it's us now. So it's a we thing. We should be able to understand Jewish suffering more. Well, George, let me tell you, here's a wee thing that you probably don't know because you're obviously a fucking idiot. Ireland was one of the greatest supporters of the Jews after World War II. I know there's all this stuff about sending condolences to Hitler and all this. Again, this is all hasbara propaganda that's been completely debunked. The Irish were great supporters of Zionism at the end of World War II, believe it or not. Ireland was a great supporter of Zionism. Ireland turned against the Zionist project whenever we realised, now it took quite a while, what the Zionist project was doing in the region and the pain and trauma and destruction that they were unleashing upon not just the indigenous Palestinians, but also the neighbours in Lebanon and the rest. We turned against it then. We were sending our peacekeepers down with the UN, and they were coming back and telling us what was happening, and the word spread, and we found out. So we were kind of ahead of the curve. Took a while, but we got there. So we're not just instinctively anti-Jewish. We weren't even instinctively anti-Zionist, despite being the victim that you, a country that's had a lot of pain, that you couldn't articulate in any way. But despite the fact that we are a country that's had a lot of pain, we still were unable to recognise a colonial project whenever it was being played out in front of our eyes. We fell for it. It's not to say that what happened to the Jewish people in World War II wasn't terrible, that they didn't deserve sympathy, that they didn't deserve support. Of course they did. No one thought that more than Ireland. But it's whenever we saw what the Zionist project was doing in the region, we turned. We saw what was happening to the Palestinians and the Lebanese, and we recognised a thing that had happened to us. And that's when we turned. And I'll say the same thing that I said to a friend the other week. A friend who disagrees with me completely. If Ireland if the Palestinians turn over time and start doing to Jews or to a different sect of Islam or Christians what's been done to them, we'll condemn them and support the victim. And we will. I had to explain all that to someone the other week. It's staggering. So, back to the thing. So here's Alan Shatter, who is an absolute tool. Disturbingly unbalanced is a restrained depiction of RT's coverage of Israel and Jewish people. Alan Shatter is bought and paid for. Referencing Paddy Keilty's response. How dare, oh my goodness. I was shocked. The purpose of highlighting the interaction between Paddy Keilty and Boy George, Holocaust Awareness Ireland, on the RTE Late Late Show was to promote awareness of the current state of relationships between Ireland and its Jews. The Jews that I know, I've met a few, and I've met them all at pro-Palestine rallies. Prominent people. Also, people just in the crowd. They're the only people that I know that I've ever met on this island that are Jewish. The relationship between Ireland and its Jews is fine. These people want you to have you believe that we're a bunch of anti-Semitic animals. We're not. And it's all. This Paddy Keilty disgracefully tried to connect the stabbing of British Jews and Golders. So here's Roger G. Gallaghan. I don't know who he is. 3 international articles in 24 hours. These stories have never been so popular with editors. Why, I wonder? We're assured there's no propaganda campaign against Ireland. Boy George is a man of integrity, and by citing in his context for these attacks, Mr. Keilty excuses violence against Jews because they're Jews. I'll let you decide on the former, but the latter is grossly unfair. Wall Street Journal. What a load of fucking bollocks. What a load of fucking bollocks. You can take that. There's a bit of Irish for you. Fuck off. So, where are we? What's my time like? 44 minutes. Oh my God, I haven't even got the... So I'm going to skip over a horrible individual called Melanie Phillips. There's that woman with the grey hair and the glasses that you'll be seeing on the news a lot these days, because this is what happens. There's a picture of her on screen. She's a rabid Zionist psychopath, and there's her. Remember I was saying last week about the new culture war shit is going to be the religious war, and they're putting the Catholics against, we're all anti-semites now because we're Catholic, because the Pope Leo's attitude to the Iran war is shocking. Unreal. So we're going to skip over her because I'm getting on a bit. I'm going to skip over this because I'm getting on a bit, and I wanted to... I'll get back to this another time. This is about Joe Biden. A Biden official says Biden was preparing to bomb Iran if re-elected. And I want you to keep in mind, if you disagree with me, that's fine, but I'm going to stand over it. I don't blame the average American for voting for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump didn't say he was going to do this. He said, in fact, the opposite. If you remember correctly, he was literally saying the exact opposite of this. He's going to end the wars. He's going to end Ukraine within 24 hours, just like that, with a single phone call. I know he's a blowhard, but that's what he was saying. The other crowd weren't saying anything. So, regardless... this is what, and this is about my point of not wanting to blame our working class neighbours and our working class brothers and sisters. As wrong as people can be, I had a dear friend that I was talking to just the other night, and I didn't realise the views that this person had on the Israel-Palestine issue, and I was frankly horrified. I'm not going to fall out with him. I'm not doing it. I tried to send him down and give him a bit of information and someone to go and listen to. I'm not doing it. I'm not falling out with him. I won't. They told me to my face, I disagree with you completely. I think you're wrong. And I said, that's okay. Let's discuss it. And it was upsetting for me to hear some of their remarks. But I'm not falling out with them. I'm not doing it. But anyway, so a quick recap on where we are with the current state of affairs with Iran. So 10 hours ago, the Wall Street Journal reports the US has handed Iran a new nuclear framework. Right, now bear in mind, the US has won this war about 8 times already, according to Donald Trump. If Tehran accepts, 30 days of detailed talks begin. The core US red lines are Iranian attestation that it does not seek nuclear weapons. It already has done that. Dismantlement of the Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan. Total ban on underground nuclear network. On-demand inspections with penalties for violations. 20-year moratorium on uranium enrichment down from permanent. And a handover of all enriched uranium stockpiles, reopening of the Strait of Hormuz in step with the US easing its blockade, and performance-based sanctions relief not granted up front. You may as well, is a dinosaur in there? Does Trump want a dinosaur? Because he may as well ask for one. So Iran, attestation that it does not seek nuclear weapons. They don't seek nuclear weapons. They don't want them. They've had a fatwa against them, and as far as I'm aware, that fatwa continues. They invested, instead of nuclear weaponry, they invested in their ballistic missile and drone technology. So, yeah, they don't want them anyway. I think they should go for them, but they don't. They're saying they don't want them. Dismantlement of the Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan underground nuclear network. So that's where they do their uranium enrichmenting. Fuck off. You're going to get the big fuck off with that. On-demand inspections with penalties for violations. You're going to get the big fuck off with that as well. The last time Iran allowed the nuclear inspectors into the UN inspectors into the nuclear bases to inspect them. The inspectors betrayed the home addresses of the nuclear scientists, and the Israelis bombed them and murdered them. Like, you know that thing they do where they want to kill one guy, so they blow up a whole block. Yeah, they did that. So they're not doing that again. You can fuck off. 20-year moratorium on uranium enrichment down from a permanent moratorium. Again, they're just going to tell you to fuck off. Handover of all enriched uranium stockpiles. Again, fuck off. They're going to tell you to fuck off. No, they've already done this. Reopening of the Strait of Hormuz in step with the US easing its blockade. Fuck off. The Strait of Hormuz is closed to the enemies of Iran. If you're not an enemy of Iran, it's opened. It's the big fuck off. Iran has won this. Performance-based sanctions relief not granted up front. It's nonsense. Well, let me see a few replies. Oh, there's me. Haha. Oh, there we go. I said, and I want a Spider-Man outfit, some gummy bears, a PlayStation 6 and a dinosaur. Fake news. Khomeini issued a fatwa against nuclear weapons in the 90s. Vacate. Oh, go away. Someone should explain to the Wall Street Journal that losers who started the war don't dictate terms to winners who decide when and how the war ends. There you go. You don't ask a sovereign state to dismantle its entire nuclear infrastructure, surrender all its stockpiles, and unilaterally reopen the world's most critical maritime choke point for the mere promise of future performance-based sanctions relief. Tehran will view this as geopolitical suicide note, not a negotiation. It's a complete fucking it's ridiculous. Iran has got the United States by the balls. 18 military bases around the Middle East, 18 of them, 13 have been destroyed. They're inoperable. Iran has destroyed them. They're inoperable. It'll take decades to rebuild those, and trillions of dollars, well, hundreds of billions of dollars. And then you turn around, you do, and then you go to them and say, you have to do this, you have to. No, they've won. It's over. Fuck me. Pathetic. So, where are we? Right, I'm going to skip on because I don't want to rush, but I want to get to my last little thing. So today is election day in England, Scotland, and Wales. There it is. Labour facing election doomsday. Is that all on screen? Yeah. Labour's facing election doomsday. This is from the Morning Star, by the way. So here we go. Labour is facing electoral annihilation across the country on Thursday, today, in elections that could bring the hard right reform UK a major step closer to power. Much of Britain is set to deliver a damning verdict on Prime Minister Keir Starmer's 2 years in power, one of the most consequential sets of one of the most consequential sets of local elections ever. Voting for the Scottish and Welsh parliaments and local authorities across England, including every London borough, could mark a landmark in the breakdown of the long-standing two-party system. Reform boss Nigel Farage claimed, "We will emerge over the course of the next couple of days as the only true national party." Isn't that shocking? That's how bad the duopoly have got. And that's, by the way, that thing I was talking about, they should have kept that up. Where is it? Here. Biden was prepared to bomb Iran if re-elected. And this, Labour facing elections doomsday. These two stories are not unconnected. Why is everybody voting for reform? Is it because they're all mad racists? No. Why? Because they've had one government after another make their living standards worse. Plus they've been getting pumped full of propaganda. That's why you end up with Nigel Farage. That's why you end up with Donald Trump. Your neighbour isn't a fucking racist all of a sudden. Maybe they've started saying some questionable things that you didn't realise that they thought before, but that's due to the propaganda. And if you think someone like Nigel Farage is the answer to any question, I want to know what that question is, because it's not, can Nigel Farage make this country better? Because it's not going to get better. Much of Britain, last minute polling suggests, and here's the numbers, Labour could lose up to 1,850 of its 2,550 seats it is defending, and crashed to defeat in Wales for the first time in more than a century, with Reform projected to gain around 1,550 representatives. If these predictions are borne out as results emerge on Friday, pressure will grow still further on Sir Keir to quit, given his epic level personal unpopularity is clearly a dead weight on Labour's vote. The Welsh First Minister, Labour's Eluned Morgan, indicated that she blames Labour's nationwide record for the prospect of the party losing control of the Senate for the first time since it was established in 1999. She acknowledged that the Premier comes up as an issue on the doorstep, and not in a good way. Baroness Morgan was reduced to pleading with voters to not pick a fight with Sir Keir today. Inertia may prove the Prime Minister's ally. Enthusiasm for his leadership is at rock bottom among Labour MPs, but his most prominent rival, greater, right, so that's so this is all about, I'm going to skip. Final polls in Scotland suggest the SNP could secure a narrow overall majority in the Parliament or fall just short, with the Labour leader Anna Sawar claiming 38 seats were on a knife edge. An SNP win would trigger demands sure to be rebuffed for a second referendum on independence. And we'll get to the Greens. In London, the Greens are looking at major gains. The Tories are set to lose 600 seats as well. So in London, the Greens are looking at major gains at Labour's expense, with many councils likely to fall to no overall control. The Greens might top the poll in several boroughs, including Hackney, Lambeth and Islington. Election calculus has calculated that should the results pan out as anticipated, and then be read over into a general election, Britain would be on course for an authoritarian and racist neoliberal government. I would say we've already got that. Reform would win 248 seats, Tories 112, enough for a comfortable Commons majority should the two right-wing parties form a pact. Labour would be reduced to 78, the Greens surge into 66, Lib Dem 61, the SNP 46, and Plaid Cymru 15. Now, what I take from that, it's very interesting. Whenever you see all the attack dogs, and I mentioned this earlier on, the attack dogs on social media and on the news are all going after Zach Polanski, the Jewish non-Zionist leader of the Green Party, rather than Nigel Farage. They're happy with Nigel Farage. The establishment doesn't mind Nigel Farage. In fact, they say they quite like him. That's why they're not going after him in the same way. And the difference is, Zach Polanski is not a Zionist, and he's not a capitalist. He's bringing in some socialist policies, certainly left-leaning policies, wealth taxes and stuff like that, bringing into public ownership certain public services that should never have been out of public ownership, like bus routes, public transport, etc., etc. So that's why he's a threat to them. He's a threat to the establishment. Nigel Farage is no threat to the establishment. That's why the likes of Tommy Robinson, etc., and clowns and characters like him exist, to create division, arguing about, for the past number of years, LGBTQ, LGB, and then Q, and then T, and then plus, and creating all these divisions among the working class. And while we are arguing about that, not that those aren't real, not that those people don't deserve their support at political level, but while we're arguing about that, we're getting our pockets picked. Nigel Farage is running around mopping up votes, and the legacy media is making Zach Polanski out to be Che Guevara. It's insane. Anyway, so local elections, hopefully, Labour are going to get an absolute fucking kicking, and I don't see why they wouldn't. Really, really should. They've been terrible. Keir Starmer is... It's hard to believe that he's not the worst Prime Minister, or he's the worst Prime Minister the UK has had, when you consider from Boris Johnson, Cameron, what do you call? I can't even remember the woman. The woman didn't last as long as the lettuce. I always forget her name. And then this fucking idiot comes along. The Queen's Counsel guy. Why is that doing that? Hope that wasn't on the whole time. I think there's been some audio on this whole time. Anyway, it's closed now. So, we're going to get to this. This I love. So, this is Kneecap. And I have to play my own music. I can't play Kneecap's music. I'm sure they're a grand bunch of lads and they wouldn't mind, but the way copyright stuff goes these days, I wouldn't be allowed to play that. It would get the podcast pulled down. But Kneecap have released a new album this week. It's called Fenian. And there's Paul Weller, the mod father himself, who turns out he's good pals with Kneecap. And there's a picture of him on Paul Weller's official Twitter. The band that couldn't be censored, more power to Kneecap, Paul Weller. Massive respect to Kneecap. Keol, as Fenian looks set for a huge week in the UK charts, and number one would mark the first time an Irish language album has topped the chart. So, there's only a couple of days to go. Get her bought, boys and girls. I bought mine. Go to their website, or you can buy them in other stores as well, obviously. But they're really good prices on their own store. So there's the downloads, there's the CD, there's the vinyl, coloured vinyl, red vinyl for 22 quid. Oh, there's this orange splatter one. I didn't see that. Green, white and orange. I didn't see that one. I would have got it. Anyway, you can get the LP for $22.99 plus shipping. Comes in at under 30 quid. That's fantastic. So go and get it. I bought it because the number 2 record in the charts. Kneecap's on course for number 1. Michael Jackson with the surge with his document or his movie, his biopic. He's number 2, and I think like one of the Spice Girls or something like that is sitting at number 3. And you only have to. I mean, I saw these numbers during the week. Kneecap are sitting something like 15,000, 16,000 sales, and that gets you to number 1 these days. It's not a lot. I mean, the Bonneville's have sold more than that. The only problem is we've sold them over a course of 20 years instead of a week. So there you go. Go and get your Kneecap and get it on. Get that new record. And I think this is hilarious that Paul Weller's sitting there drinking a cup of tea with Kneecap and their manager. What's his name? Can't mind. That's going to be. I really do hope to get it. It would be fucking brilliant if that was the one. I fully suspect them to not allow that to happen. And then you had that controversy during the week as well with the. There was a couple of things. Transport for London, so they had adverts. The Kneecap took out adverts on the London Underground, and they sent the adverts back saying they weren't allowed. I think it was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word Fenian, which is a bit mental. And then they put out a statement saying that they wouldn't allow it. Or no, Kneecap put out a statement saying that Transport for London wouldn't allow it because someone had said, why have you blanked the word Fenian out of the advert? And then they had said, listen, they wouldn't allow us to use these words. And then Transport for London came back and said, no, you sent us this with you sent us the copy, called the copy, with the word blanked out. And then Kneecap's manager, his name escapes me, come back with a screenshot of the email saying, no, we sent it to you, you sent it back, and we missed the deadline because of it, and you sent it back saying you wouldn't publish it with needed these amendments with these words, so we just blurred those words out, and it was Keir Starmer, and because they were slagging off Keir Starmer because he said they're utterly appalling. That's an advert, that's on the advert, Keir Starmer's quote. So yeah, it's just the establishment kicking itself in the dick over and over and fucking over again. So yeah, so there we go. I think that's the pod. I'm going to call it. I had another wee thing I wanted to show you, but I'll save it for next time. There's a Lurgan comedian, and he came out with a wee funny wee video there. I'm gonna yeah, I'll keep it up on my browser so that it doesn't go away. But yeah, so there we go. I have to go and get my dinner. So, happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend starting tomorrow. Get out and have a pint. Do the things you want to do. And this weekend at Oxford Island in Lurgan, we've got the Save Loch Ness Film Festival. I'll be playing some tunes at it, and I'll be interviewing a journalist about his new book. I should have mentioned all that at the start. Jesus, I'm terrible at this stuff. So come down over the weekend, and there's lots of stuff, lots of people being interviewed, films being shown, etc, etc. That's going to be great, and I'll catch you for the next one. Boom. I'm going to be doing some recording while I'm down there too, by the way. So talk to you soon. Bye now.